Hi, Luna here. Welcome to my channel, Luna Drakon. On this channel, I talk about books and writing. Today, I'm going to be doing my 2019 reading year in review. I had set up my reading journal back in July, and I've tracked my reading ever since then. For 2019, I read 23 books. I did commonplacing notes for 4, and I annotated 3. I bought around 54 books this year between August and December. It's not too bad, because I mean I was getting them for like 4 for $1, so yeah. So let's scroll through my Goodreads. We'll take you over there. Now let's flip through my reading log, all the monthlies. Now I want to review and talk about each of the books that I read in 2019. First, we'll start with this little book. I got this back when I was in middle school through Scholastic Book Fair. It's a book of questions by Bill Zimmerman. It's got like a bunch of little tiny questions, like, let's see. what new discovery do you want to make? You know, just little things like that. And I thought it was super cute, so I picked that up. And so I wanted to reread through it, like what I wrote before, and I plan on trying to go through it again. So that was one of them. Another one that I read this year was The Jewel Kingdom, The Diamond Princess Saves the Day. And it's by Johanna N. Malcolm. It's this cutesy little princess story. The princess has to throw a party, and it's like the first one that she's organizing. It's probably maybe younger than middle grade, but it's a cutesy little story. And she's a pretty decent author. She does a lot of kids' books, so it was cute. Another one was Keep Going by Austin Kleon. Now, I love his books. He has Stealing Like an Artist, Show You Work, and then he wrote this Keep Going. And a lot of his books are pretty much trying to give you inspiration, trying to drive you to go further, and pretty much giving yourself the permission to try something, and not giving up on yourself, looking for that inspiration, etc. I very enjoyed his books, and I'm always on the lookout when he does a new one. Another physical book that I read this year was Dark Awakening by Kendra Leigh Castle. It's a paranormal romance. It's vampires, just pretty much just vampires in the first one. There was wolves in the second one, which I'm working on, but vampires in this first one. And it was actually pretty interesting. Teenan has to try to find Lily Quinn and bring her to his masters to try to save his master's people. And you get to go on that whole journey, and it was pretty cool. Obviously, I annotated it a lot. The physical book that I read this year was Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. Now, I'd seen this floating around on BookTube, and once I seen it at Goodwill, I'm like, alright, I'm picking this up, I'm gonna read this and try it out. And obviously I enjoyed it, because I annotated the crap out of it. Basically, they gotta try to find a murderer, there's, you know, people dying, they gotta figure out who done it. Perfect who done it. They do describe the victims' bodies in this, and that could be a trigger for some people. On a level of gore, you have, let's do a scale here. You got tame, say Matlock, Murder, She Wrote, Murdoch Mysteries, very tame on the gore. In the middle you would have like Bones and The Alienist, and then on the other end of the spectrum, Pie would be like horror movies, say like Saw or Chainsaw Massacre. I would put this towards the middle, more like Bones. If you can handle the gore in that TV show, then you should be able to handle this. Now, one thing with reading a book, you can decide how you perceive it, so you might be able to handle it, even if you prefer more of the tame descriptions, you know, in mysteries and murders. But I quite enjoyed it, and I definitely intend on reading the rest of her series. Another physical book, I did not read this all the way through, obviously. This is the vampire book, The Encyclopedia of the Undead, 3rd edition, by J. Gordon Melton, PhD. This was really cool because it gives you a lot of facts about vampires from like way back, really early descriptions and more recent media. I mean, this got all the way up to Twilight because this is the 3rd edition. I'm pretty sure he'll probably make more editions as more vampire movies and TV comes out. He'll probably make more. This will be a reference book for me. I'll definitely come back to this often, as, you know, I love vampires and intend on writing about them at some point. Let's see what else. Oh, speaking of writing, I got these 2 writing craft workbooks by K.M. Wieland. She is really good with teaching about writing, and I've read the main books that go with these, but I really like the workbooks because then I can reference them and come back to them to do my writing. This one was structuring your novel workbook, and this one was creating character arcs workbook. Her books go together very well to help you build a fully round story. So I highly, highly recommend her books if you want to get into writing. I definitely will have more writing craft books as we go throughout. Alright, so that's done with the physical. The Artemis Fowl series. I picked them up. I picked up 2 of the books when I was younger, but I never read it all the way through. So this year I decided that I was going to listen to all 8 audiobooks, and I chose to do an audiobook form so that, you know, I could be doing other things too. They were quite enjoyable. So Artemis Fowl is a 12-year-old child genius, and he has, in the first book, he has the idea to try to get gold from the fairies. He realizes the fairies are real, and he wants to get gold from them by kidnapping one, kind of like ransom gold. He meets some of the fairies, and it's pretty cool because I wasn't sure if I was going to be drawn in, but really I was. I was drawn in pretty quickly, especially for the witty banter and everything. Then I listened to the other, 7. As I went along, I was drawn in more by the characters, and I wanted to know, okay, what's going to happen next to them. So it was a lot of fun. Another audiobook that I listened to this year was The Princess Bride. Now, I love that movie. So a friend of mine had suggested, well, why don't you read the book? And I'm like, okay. So I found the audiobook, and it was 2.5 hours. I'm like, well, that's like a long movie, that's fine. She said that it's like the movie, but more, and she was absolutely right. If you find that you watch the movie The Princess Bride and you want just a little bit more, you're craving more, listen to the audiobook, because it's like consuming a longer version of the movie, and there was just that little bit more detail that really brought it to life. Definitely satiates the craving for more of that story and those characters. One that I read was A Passion for Watercolor by Stefan Drakon. I only gave this 3 stars because it really wasn't what I was looking for, and although it was done fine, it wasn't what I wanted, so it was only okay for me. Another was an anthology of like children's horror stories, similar to like Goosebumps, but it was Mystery Underground States of Emergency, David Anthony. Pretty much they're like middle grade child horror stories, and they were short but fun. I got that done within a couple of hours. Another one that I pretty much only gleamed through was Poetry for Dummies by the Poetry Center. I only gave that 2 stars because although it touched on some of the basics, I wanted more. So that was only Another writing craft book that I read was A Writer's Workbook, Daily Exercises for the Writing Life by Caroline Sharp. I gave this 5 stars. She had a lot of good exercises in there to help build some of your writing skills. Highly recommend it. Oh, there we go. Another book that I read that it was gorgeous visually, but I only had it in ebook, and I really wish that I had it as a physical. It was Cabinet of Curiosities, My Notebooks, Collections, and Other Obsessions by Guillermo del Toro. Sorry, I can't pronounce his name very well. The guy who did Hellboy. I loved this book because it was so in-depth into... I love collections. Like, there was a TV show, Extreme Collectors. I loved that. But, seeing the collections of his movie, what are those called? There's a word. Can't think of the word. Oh, we'll go with it. Like, figurines and collectibles from the movies that he's done and his favorites, and like horror movies. Seeing the pictures of his secondary home where he keeps all these was very interesting. Also, his notebooks of yes, his notebooks of documenting his process on what he was thinking as he was... Okay, it stopped recording. Ugh, of course it did. Right when we get going. So with the Cabinet of Curiosities, it was interesting to see the details in his notebooks for the processes that he was going through as he decided what to put into his movies. So that was a very good read visually. Yeah, I think that was almost all the books. So that's it for this video. Those were the books that I read this year. Hope to see you again. Hope you have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video.